Hello, my name is Mark Woodhouse, and I'm speaking to you from the Mark Twain Room in the Gannett Tripp Library at Elmira College in Elmira, New York, in the United States. And I'm going to be reading a paper that I prepared for the Portal Project for Aristotle University at Thessaloniki. And the title of the paper is Fatal to Prejudice, Keeping Learning Alive in a Shrinking World. It's impossible to complete a degree program in an American institution in the field of history or in political science or literature without encountering frequent references to Alexis de Tocqueville's 1835 Democracy in America. Too close to see ourselves clearly, we as Americans have for some time routinely taken as our reference the point of view of a non-American. This has served us well, even if some of the observations are less than flattering. De Tocqueville remarks, for instance, that I know of no country indeed where the love of money has taken stronger hold on the affections of men. There's a sting of truth in that. On the other hand, investing de Tocqueville's point of view with a degree of credibility also allows us to accept his more flattering observations. For instance, he remarks, the great privilege of Americans does not consist in being more enlightened than any other nation, but in being able to repair the faults that they may commit. We can hope that that continues to be true. American studies programs that exist outside of America have the ability to continue this tradition of holding a mirror to the American national character. And in fact, the growth of American studies as a field, both in America and abroad, speaks to a twofold imperative: the hunger of Americans to come to terms with their own identity, and the fascination that Americanness arouses in a world in which, for better or for worse, the influence of American culture is pervasive. In thinking about what to say regarding the Portal Project, one incident from my own life kept coming back to me. When I was a young man in the small upstate New York town of Elmira, 3 other young men opened a clothing store in the basement of the shoe store owned by one of their fathers. The store was called the People's Place and was the only interesting clothing store in town for young people. So everyone who fancied him or herself to be cool, or anyone who aspired to be cool, shopped there, which of course was everyone of a certain age. One of the owners was always at the door to greet you by name, and his name was Tommy Hilfiger. 30 years later, I was vacationing in Venice and sitting in San Marco Square when a large group of very young, very stylish French schoolgirls came along and sat nearby eating an American fast food lunch. Fully half of them were wearing t-shirts that had Tommy emblazoned across the front. Somewhere in the intervening years, Tommy from Elmira had gone global. I don't think I've ever completely sorted out the complicated range of feelings I had at that moment in Venice, having to do with ideas of America, celebrity, myth, image, reality, and most of all, a great collapsing sense of the world shrinking. A small example perhaps, but I think why it kept coming back to me at this time has to do with the idea that to sort out these multiple, sometimes contradictory feelings that are experienced surrounding the American identity and the various forms of global influence America exerts, and to place these in a context in which we can arrive at a genuine understanding, requires that we look critically at the evidence that exists. What is America? And what does it mean to be American? What does America have to offer the world? What has America done to the world? And why are the answers to these questions important? Projects such as Aristotle University's American Studies Portal are vital in keeping alive the true spirit of inquiry and in providing a framework that allows such questions to be pursued with the seriousness they deserve. Paradoxically, in a world in which we find an unprecedented wealth of information, the multiplicity of media, social networking, shortened attention spans, and the sheer volume of data being produced leads inevitably to a proliferation of misinformation and a level of speed and virtual noise that can obscure that which is truly valid and useful. Studies at Berkeley and other institutions routinely estimate growth rates for digital information in numbers that are difficult to fathom. One such study estimated that in 2006 alone, the digital information created was 3 million times that contained in all the books ever written. The challenge to educators, indeed the challenge to learning itself, in such an environment is to maintain a diligent critical focus amidst all of the noise. In The Paradox of Choice, Barry Schwartz describes the current state of things as a situation that leaves us either paralyzed by the vast number of choices available to us are willing to simply take whatever comes along rather than face the agony of evaluation and decision. Schwartz is speaking generally about consumer decisions like choosing a breakfast cereal or a new pair of jeans. But the same can be said of information-seeking behaviors. How many times have you gone beyond the second or third screen of a Google search, for instance? And increasingly, students not only settle for whatever comes up first, usually a Wikipedia entry, but are unaware that there's any reason or mechanism for looking further. As the Portal Project demonstrates, it's possible to organize relevant, available, reliable information in order to facilitate a discovery process with the potential to further a genuine, deep inquiry. As a librarian, it's heartening for me to see this sort of close and meaningful collaboration between the library and the teaching faculty, working to make sense of the current challenging and unwieldy information environment. More and more vital information is being digitized and made available in various ways, sometimes free and sometimes for a price. And much important information also remains undigitized, a fact that in itself needs to be conveyed to researchers and students. Without attention to the sort of responsible stewardship of information reflected in initiatives such as the Portal Project, we run the risk that the easy fact, the ubiquitous misperception, and the uninformed opinion become the raw material of our ideas. On another level, the two-way nature of such a project, the cross-cultural cooperation and collaboration, opens doors for mutual understanding in the emerging global culture. Speed of travel and communication and ever more complex economic interdependence demand more than a superficial understanding of the richness of other cultures and the values that proceed from them. As Anthony Appiah points out, conversation doesn't have to lead to consensus about anything, especially not values. It's enough that it helps people get used to one another. At the end of Innocents Abroad, Mark Twain wrote that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. It's no longer easy, or perhaps even possible, to vegetate in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. If nothing else, the rest of the world comes to us in various ways. But substitute learning for travel in Twain's comment, and the statement reads equally well. We need Appiah's conversation and Twain's imperatives of broad, wholesome, and charitable views to begin to appreciate the basic goodness of our shared humanity. Thank you.